Hi, it's Stephen here from Sound of Nation Wave, and this is day 11 of the December daily draw. So let's see what message we get today. And I'll be taking the first card from the Seasons of the Witch Winter Tarot, followed by an Oracle card from the Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. So let's choose our first card and get the reading underway. Okay, here we go. So we have the Winter Emperor. And I know that this is one of the cards from this month's month ahead spread. In fact, it was what we leave behind card. So it's interesting that this has come up. This to me is all about order. It's about structure, organization. It's about planning, putting things in the right place, getting things. It's about But when this came out in the month ahead spread, in that position of what we leave behind, I saw this, and I think this is what it's coming to remind us of. And this is why I like doing the month ahead spread and then seeing some of those cards come out, because when they come out in the the daily draws, I can recognize them, and then it's almost like it ties in with the month ahead spread and helps me understand what this could be referring to, other than the general sort of emperor, sort of masculine energy, kind of order, rational thinking, um, you know, it being in control, sort of that kind of thing, which could be part of this. Maybe there's a degree of being a bit organized. Maybe there's things we need to get done and we need to organize it. We need to start planning and organizing it. And particularly as we're running up to the holiday season, and there's a lot of things we need to get done. We need to organize that. And it struck me today how close we are, and there's still things I need to do. So maybe I need to get a bit more organized. So that element of it is still relevant. But tying it back in with the month ahead spread, this could also be, when we had this, I said this about rigidity. And it felt very cold and harsh, didn't it? It felt very cold and harsh. And I forget what the taking forward was. I know what the card was for November. What were we taking forward instead of this? I'll get to it in a bit. But this is about, she's walking through a very cold landscape. Yes, you've got like the masculine energy here with the face, but it's a very rigid landscape that she's walking through. Yes, the trees. I mean, these trees must be some kind of evergreen, because they're not bare. They're not. It says winter, but you know what I mean. It's very stark. It's very, and very rigid and very devoid of any warmth or feeling. And what I said was, we got to perhaps loosen up a bit and get away from a rigid structure maybe we can go too far the other way with this. We can be too structured, too it has to be so. It has to be this way, and we sometimes we need to be a bit more flexible and a bit more spontaneous, and have the bit more freedom. This seems very restrictive and almost oppressive in some way, and that's the kind of thing that we want to be moving away from and embracing something more positive. Let me get my notebook because it's really it was the Six of Winter Pentacles. That's right. A more giving, not being so rigid and almost unyielding that this image sort of gives to me, but being a little bit more, maybe we've become rich, we've hardened our spirit somewhere or our feelings or something as a defensive mechanism in some way. And we need to soften a little. We need to be a bit more yielding, a bit more giving. So that unyielding sort of nature, giving way to a bit more generosity and giving, not necessarily if it doesn't mean necessarily finance. It can be, or as it can be of ourselves, of our time, just of ourselves, just connecting with people and contributing. In relationships and things, and not shutting things out and being this sort of cold, sort of unyielding, unwelcoming, sort of unapproachable, almost kind of scenario. So, to me, this is yes, there is a place for being organized and getting in and realizing what you have to get done and how you're going to do it and when you're going to do it. And if you've got a deadline, particularly, you're going to work out how you're going to fulfill that deadline and get things done by that time. So that's very much, this card is talking about that. But also in relation to the month ahead spread, it's also reminding us to not take the structure and be too rigid with it, and be a bit more giving and be flexible, spontaneous, and also being a little bit more vulnerable and not being so like defensive and almost foreboding, and that sense that we need to have that air of control and dominance and power and all that kind of thing that the emperor can represent. No, be a little bit more softer, be a little bit more because we had the tower for the inner work as well, didn't we? And that was about destructing, pulling down some of those walls that have maybe been erected, maybe within us to protect us from things going on, from the harshness around us, that we've put up some kind of defense or wall or something, and that tower thing represents the pulling it down so that we can be a bit more open again. And so that's what I feel that this card is reminding us of. Organize the things you need to, but don't take it to an extreme and don't be too rigid in your approach. Do what you need to do to make it work for you, but don't let it be overpowering. And don't let anyone else be overpowering towards you. That's what I would say that this card is saying today. Okay, so let's see which oracle card we get to go with that. Merriment. With the candles, look. Almost like a birthday cake, celebration. In the thinking, look at the candles, lighting things up in the ideas. It's like bringing a bit of light and warmth and merriment, joy. Bring a bit more joy. That doesn't look too joyful. That looks a bit too harsh. Bring some merriment into life. bring some, create some happiness, some light, some warmth. It does fit. These two cards together fit with the contrast in the month ahead spread that we had. So, yes, remember to include the celebration and the warmth and, sharing together. We have the three people here. Do the celebration. So, include times of celebration, bring some light and warmth into the situation. As I say, do the organizing you need to do, but allow room for spontaneity, fun, merriment, as it says here. Bring a bit of light into the cold, dark winter. And that is today's message. So I'll be back tomorrow with day 12. Until then, thank you for listening. Take care, everyone. And I'll see you all again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.